So what if I told you that your expertise that you've built over the years actually has more value than your current job's paying you for it? Shocker, right? Most professionals I work with underestimate how much people care about their specialized knowledge and things even outside of their current job. I did the same thing too, until I discovered the insights that I gained over 25 years in my corporate job weren't just valuable to the employer, they were valuable to the whole world of people willing to pay directly for them. And in this video, I want to show you exactly how I made this realization and turned it into my path out of a corporate career. Because everyone tells you that sharing your expertise with the world is complicated. It takes a huge platform, it takes perfect timing, it takes years of putting yourself out there before you can make an impact. But I don't know about you, this sounds like a lot of waiting. And for 2 decades, I sat in boardrooms and work meetings and conference rooms watching my best ideas either get diluted, dismissed, or pushed to the side, believing that I needed to play by someone else's rules just to succeed. Then one day, I had an aha moment. It changed everything. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through why unlocking your expertise is simpler than you've been led to believe, and the one counterintuitive mindset shift that turned my trapped knowledge in my head into real world impact that allowed me to leave my job and get paid for that expertise. So no matter where you work or what you do, whether you work for someone else or you work for yourself, we're all taught the same thing. Focus on the priorities, meet the deadlines, hit the targets, put out the daily fires. There's rarely time or space for our most valuable ideas to see the light of day, especially if they're not related to our daily life or work priorities. But let me show you why this thinking is wrong. So this is what our day-to-day life looks like, especially if you're a high achiever like me and the people that I work with in the Be Something Awesome community. We're putting out great things, but we also can get stuck in what I'm drawing here. So this is the containment of our responsibilities. So we have our work here, we have our life, and that's really basically it. So you have these things kind of swimming around each other in here. And these are the only things that society tells us that we can really spend time thinking about, especially if things are very busy or our life feels overwhelming and we're falling into bed every night thinking, I don't have time to do anything. So there's knowledge that's being used, obviously, to run your life, to raise your children if you have a family, to deal with possible hobbies that you're involved with. And work obviously probably consumes a lot of your life, like it does me. Whether it's your business or you work for someone else, it doesn't matter. There's a huge amount of knowledge transfer that's happening here. All the systems you use, all the software that you're running or the apps that you're using, all that lives in here. But there are things that exist out here in our lives. These are things that could be hobbies that don't live in your day-to-day. For me, I'll use an example. Music is one of them. Music is something, as you can see, I have a lot of equipment here, but I somehow never seem to make time for it. I never seem to make time to continue to practice these instruments. I never seem to make time to get on the computer and lay down some digital music, even though I used to DJ. So this kind of lives out here where it's like, I can't really get to it. This knowledge isn't really being used in my day-to-day life. Or over here, there was all these things that I was internalizing when I was working in my agency job, but like I've shared in other videos, had started networking, being part of entrepreneur communities, being part of content creator communities. And I was learning how to create YouTube content. I was learning how to craft and make courses, which we talk about in the Be Something Awesome community. Well, guess what? All that knowledge here was building up. It was just this knowledge of how to run YouTube or to develop the content or the information. And what was frustrating is this kept mounting up, and I knew that this information was valuable, but it wasn't part of this day-to-day box that I was in. And so there are things in your life that exist out here in this ether, okay? And I call these things your knowledge vault. And I'm going to talk about this in a moment as to how these things work together to really shape the value you can bring to the world. But these things are very important. And I bet you, I know for sure, that there are things right now in your life that live out here that you may be taking for granted that are not part of your day-to-day, your life or your work, that are extremely valuable for people. These are things that people will pay money for. And in many ways, they'll pay a lot of money for it because you can legitimately solve a problem for them. They will be glad to pay you money for that information. And so this is something I see constantly. I see it with people in the community, and I see it in my agency work as well. This idea of bringing those two parties together to create this value exchange, right? I can't write value. This value exchange. So it's your idea over here and the person that, the need over here, the person that needs the solution, needs a solution, okay? This is not icky or dirty or weird. This is valuable. And this is where countless people right now in the content creator community are making lots of money. You can be in this space. And you don't even have to leave your corporate job yet to explore what it looks like to be here. So you've probably felt this too, that frustration of knowing you have solutions, you have perspectives and ideas that could help others, but they remain trapped in our minds because they're not the right priority right now. But here's what's crazy. This pressure to focus on the priorities is actually masking something deeper that I didn't recognize until I made a critical mistake in my own journey. You see, for years, I thought I needed to build the perfect platform first, the polished website, the established business, the growing YouTube channel with all kinds of subscribers and massive views. Then I could start sharing my expertise. Then I would be taken seriously. And I couldn't have been more wrong. After leaving my corporate job, I discovered that this approach had things completely backward. The platform doesn't come first. I was waiting around for it to tell me what to say and how to say it, to let the algorithm and the thumbnails drive what I really wanted to put out into the world. Guess what shapes that first? Understanding our unique voice, that personal design that we bring to the world, the unique way of seeing things, our authentic expertise. That's what we need to lead. That's what we need to bring to the world. We don't need an algorithm or a thumbnail design to tell us that. We need to get that right first, and then that drives everything after. And let me tell you what happens. It starts to draw the right people to you. It starts to draw you to the right platform. And most importantly, when you get on this platform like YouTube that I'm on now, or Instagram or any others that can be very overwhelming, well, then you have something beautiful. You have a sense of clarity. And that drives the process and makes it so much easier to navigate the world of the social media platforms when you get on them. So when I work with people in the Be Something Awesome community, people like yourself that are aspiring to do great things and already are, but they're getting stuck or they're getting the cart before the horse like we talked about with regard to the platforms and how to do things, there are a few things we walk through, and I want to show you what those steps are in order so that you don't get overwhelmed by thinking you need the platform first. So these are the 4 things that I walk people through that are part of our Be Something Awesome community, in our online community, and in our paid programs. And it's 4 areas to make it very simple. And the idea here is that the goal is with Be Something Awesome is the question that I always ask people. It's part of the tagline. What's your something? And the word something is very strategic and actually very clear in the name of Be Something Awesome and why this is the name of the community. It's the idea that something means that our journey is not completely perfect. It's not a clear-cut through line, and it actually is a journey in evolution. So it's this idea of constant refinement and understanding. So when people show up to the community, it's not that they don't have any idea about what they want to share, or they've probably made a lot of impact or have made impact in the world before. We just want to take it, refine it, and get it into a situation where there's clarity and alignment to get that message out there. And then whatever happens, happens regarding their work and career. In some cases, people shape things that are always going to be on the side, whether it's a passion project, a music career, running a yoga studio, it doesn't matter. It may not be a full-time gig, or there are people like myself that completely transformed my career and moved these passions and my unique something to the forefront and made it the entirety of my world. Either is fine, but the clarity is key. So first, we seek to understand ourselves. And so we do some different activities to understand our energy alignment, because I believe that we all have a unique energy flow, and it helps us understand how we make decisions, how we show up in the world, and things like that. So I like to understand where people are coming at from there. And then also an idea of what you've done, your experience. I love this part. It's so fascinating to me of getting a chance to understand your experience and your journey, right? Where you came from, what you've done to this point. So a lot of our initial conversations when someone joins and we start working together is to understand these things and to really dig deep and understand the experience. Because what's different between them writing it down in a journal themselves and coming to work with me is that I'm able to give them a viewpoint, an outside mirror to point out things that maybe they don't see in their experience journey. So this part is key because this energy alignment is going to affect point number 4. Then we uncover the message. What do you want to say? What do you want to say? How do you want to make impact? What is your calling, right? And a lot of this stems actually from some of this energy alignment work, because we're able to then see what is really bubbling up. It usually connects to your natural energy. That's something I realized more later in life. I kind of felt these draws toward things. And then I started realizing the reason that I show up and do the work that I'm doing now is because I have this innate drive and energy flow to help people and to go explore things and come back and report back to you, so you can hopefully not make the same mistakes I did or learn from the journey. So the same thing is true for you and people in the community. So what do you want to say? What is your calling? How do you want to impact the world? So this works hand in hand with this experience journey to figure that out, right? Then aligning the voice, figuring out how do you want to show up in the world, right? Show up. How do you? How do you show up, right? How do you want to show up in the world? And what is most resonant, okay, with you, because you're going to attract people that flow with your energy, okay? Not to sound very woo-woo, but it's true. Your general vibe of how you show up and share information and tell your story is going to attract people that are feeling that what you're putting down with that energy. So these things here connect really a lot, right? And so how we show up, what's most resonant, and this is aligning your voice. And this is where we start talking about getting it out to the world. So this starts to involve a bit of packaging, understanding what messages can resonate with the world, how we say them in a way that's going to honor your unique energy style. It's going to honor the integrity, let's add that word here, integrity of your story, and also what's going to most attract the people here. So we're developing things like messaging styles and words that you use and ways that you may want to attract people into what story you're telling so that you can help them. So this is key because this is what holds a lot of people back, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, from wanting to put ourselves out there. And then when we show up to these platforms, like I mentioned earlier, figuring out what the hell am I going to put on this video, or what am I going to put on Instagram? It's overwhelming because we haven't done these steps to start. And then finally, sharing to make impact. We co-work these things together in the community. We're showing up to be accountable, right? And just like figuring out what's working, what is really resonating, working with the practicalities of shooting videos or writing or creating blog content or things like this. Whatever that expression is that comes from these things, we're looking at those things together, and I'm giving direct feedback to people. This is the work that I do in the agency side of my life through Hey Joey Studio. I have a boutique branding agency. So a lot of that experience is coming back here because guess what? The same thing that works for those big corporate brands, the same branding methodology works here for you sharing just your story to another individual, because it's all about what's going to motivate people and what's going to really make them lean in and want to hear what you have to say. So it's all about getting in the mindset of who you're speaking to so that you can create a transformation for them in however you show up to do that. So this is a key part of the process. So these are the 4 steps that I think are key to getting you from showing up to this video saying, I want to be something awesome, to figuring out what your something is and actually getting that idea, your something awesome, out to the world. Maybe you're stuck in the same thinking pattern that we just looked at, which I was very much stuck in for a long time. Waiting for everything to be perfect, for the perfect platform to show up before we feel that we can share our real value with the world. But in the process of this, there's something even more damaging that's happening. A sense of frustration, a sense of mounting pressure that some people can't describe. I felt it for a long time and I couldn't put words to it. And when people show up in the Be Something Awesome community, when I first engage with them, they share that same feeling. It's almost like their head is about to explode, but they can't explain why. Let me tell you about why this is happening and why it's more damaging. But before I do that, I want to tell you quickly that we're going to be hosting a 2-week Be Something Awesome challenge. You can get all the details in the description, but we're going to walk through the process that I just showed you together in a group environment. There's going to be a community there. I'm going to be doing trainings. There's all the information on this challenge in the description. It's going to start very soon, and I would love for you to be part of it because that way I can meet you at least in real life virtually, and we can work through these things together in a way that I can't do in this one-way conversation. So I wanted to share the challenge with you because you may be feeling this deep sense of mounting frustration right now. And the challenge could really help work through that because I want to tell you when I uncovered what's causing this frustration, and there's 2 parts to it. And when I realized it, I was able to then realize how to relieve it and actually move forward and get to a place that feels more balanced. So there's 2 things at play. So with our knowledge, it's what I call a knowledge equity vault, okay? It's like a vault of things in our head, and they all have value assigned to them, okay? There's value in the ideas that we have in our heads. And who assigns the value? Well, the marketplace, or even ourselves. We know that this piece of knowledge that we learned in a job, or this instrument we play, or this problem I solved, we know that this information could really change someone's life. And so there's this value assigned to it. And if you equate it even to like the markets, if you do stock market or money, or even the idea that money just sitting in our bank accounts starts to almost atrophy. And there's this idea that when you spend it, you start to get more, which I firmly believe in. So that same thing applies to our thoughts because these ideas are in there and they're begging to get out to the world. And the longer they sit there with that value being present and not being spent and not being applied, that's part 1 of what creates the frustration. But part 2, there is a sense that I felt, a sense of guilt or a sense of responsibility that I needed to bring this information to the world. Because it really is true that our knowledge can help change someone's life, especially if they're dealing with the very thing we know how to fix. So they need exactly what we have in our heads, but we're not sharing it with people because for some reason, we're keeping that information sealed in the vault. And it's very valuable, everybody. It's valuable. So I had my own vault of full strategies in here, the things I'm sharing with you now, about how to be awesome, how to deal with productivity, how to move through blockers, how to align your energy. These are all things that I just started internalizing and felt, well, they're good for me. I'm able to think about them and my knowledge is being increased, but that's only part of the story. You were on this video because you want to help people. I know that. If you're watching my content, that's why we met on YouTube, because I believe we were brought together for this reason. So our knowledge needs to be put out to the world. So there's a sense of responsibility. And there's also this sense that the equity needs to be applied to places where it can really help people. So to close out the point, our knowledge has value. It has value to people, whether you make money for it or not. But I'm here to tell you that showing up and giving people a solution is going to feel great. And I know, I've lived it, I experience it, and see a lot of people that do, that you can show up with that knowledge and people will pay you well and happily to solve that problem with them. And what a great way to create this this warm experience where you can help someone and make that a career for yourself or make that a business for yourself. That is truly awesome. So with that, go ahead and jump in the description if you want to join the 2-week challenge. I would love to see you there. And thank you so much for showing up to this video, and I hope to see you in the challenge. I'll see you in the next video. Later.